Yeah. We've been microdosing a little lead. If you're not even microdosing lead, are you really a shooter? Are you really on that kinetic night grind set? I think not. Welcome, my friends. Woodland Brutality. Woodland Brutality was a true brutality experience. Everything that I said about Cornfield Brutality, if you were really curious about what it's like to shoot two-gun action challenge, all of those points still remain the same. They still stay true, but Woodland offered everything and more. I really felt like I got the true brutality two-gun action challenge experience out of this event. If you haven't seen my Cornfield Brutality video yet, you can go ahead and check it out. Cornfield was fun, but it wasn't like this. Woodland offered everything and more. It was really a true two-gun event. Pistol and rifle were present on many stages rather than at Cornfield, where it was just, you're going to shoot your rifle on this stage, then you're going to only shoot your pistol on this stage, which is fine. I still had a lot of fun, but Woodland was a lot better in that regard, and I do give my thanks to Carl and the InRange crew for putting together a pretty good event. I really enjoyed myself and had a lot of fun. So with this event, I participated in Partisan Division. I ended up finishing 6th overall. Some stages I was pretty happy with, some not so much. The gear that I went with, so this is what I've been competing with for two-gun. It's just kind of my block 2-ish. I got my Aimpoint Comp M5, my magnifier, 40-round mags. I spent 2 points to get 40-round mags on this, and to have a red dot with a magnifier, which I was very happy with. I didn't feel like this held me back at all. For my handgun, I chose just my regular old Glock 34 with my Aimpoint Acro P2. Just ran some 17 rounders, which led me to carry 3 on my belt at all times and just 1 rifle mag. I didn't feel like having 17 round mags hindered my performance on handgun at all whatsoever. And then for my chest rig, I have this kind of old school cool Arctis M170, which I always just think it's really funny how now all of our chest rigs that are hitting the market that are really popular are essentially what this was when this came out in like the 90s. But I think Arctis has actually had these around for longer than the 90s. I think they came out in the 80s. But either way, I'm really happy with this. I'm going to be doing a more extensive video on all of the equipment that I've shot two-gun with at a later date. I was going to do one previously, but I decided I didn't really have enough experience with it to really say definitively. But now, after shooting with it much more, I can definitely say for sure and give some good gear recommendations on what I like and I don't like. So let's take a look at some of the footage. If you stick around to the end, I do have an interview with Juan Cisneros, who placed 1st overall in the whole match. So congrats to Juan. At the time I interviewed him, he was doing really well and he was winning. And as it turns out, he actually did win. So congratulations to him. So let's take a look. I'm not going to really do a whole lot of talking during this segment, but there are a couple things that I do want to explain. Woodland Brutality uses a time plus system, so if you don't know what that means, what it means is it takes the total time that you took to ran the stage, plus any penalties that you incurred while you executed your stage plan. First stage up that we have here is the Casarda Drill. This was a stage win for the entire match. I had won this basically due to my strength training. There was a lot of time left on the table because I hadn't trained out the habit of looking wherever the kettlebell is landing. For those of you that are unfamiliar with the Casarda Drill, it involves a kettlebell. You throw the kettlebell wherever it lands. That's your next shooting position. For every fault line that you cross, you get time reduced from your total time. It was an unoptimized run. I had let the kettlebell slip out of my hands after my 2nd or 3rd toss. That wasn't looking pretty good, and I also missed some steel. Just some really stupid shots with the handgun that I should have taken my time with.
Stay behind the muzzle. There you go. Don't watch it. One, two. One, two. Quit watching it. There Okay, watch your muzzle. Control your weapon. 1, 2. Don't let it swing behind you, all right? There you go. 1, 2. Big toss, big toss. Over. Just go to the fault line. Clear. 13626.
Jungle Run stage, I had placed 8th overall. This is one where you had to have, I think it was between 30 and 40 pounds of brass on your back. You had to engage steel. There were 3 steel targets. You had to engage them for 3 rounds. They were a little bit difficult to hit just because they were obscured. Some of them were behind leaves and trees and whatnot. Once you had finished, you had to drop your mag, advance, shoot a steel plate with rifle, and there was an optional swinger at the end to get some time knocked off your total. I'm pretty awful at spinners. It's just not something you see a lot in USPSA, and consequently, I rarely ever shoot them. The only time I do shoot spinners is actually at this match. There's not really any trick to them. You just kind of have to do them. I especially don't engage spinners with rifles, so anytime that I have to do it with a rifle at distance is always a little bit tricky for myself. Consequently, I took a very long time to spin this, so much so that we're not going to see the entire footage.
1, 2. Nope, miss. 2.
Sniper Spec Ops. Not just an excellent movie, but it was also a pretty good stage. You began seated, you shot 2 steel targets, you moved onto a barricade, tossed a kettlebell over it for a total of 4 times. Every time the kettlebell landed, you would engage 3 steel targets approximately 400 yards away with 1 shot per target. This was really cool because they had managed to rig up lights on the steel target, so as soon as you got a hit, you knew immediately because you saw a red flashing LED. At this stage, it really paid to know your holds. If you didn't know your holds, you were going to have a tough time. I don't have a membership at a club where I can engage steel at this distance, so for me, it's a little bit tricky. This stage really showed me what I need to work on.
Cut. Low. Edge. Low. Low. Cut. Cut. Safe for throw. Come on, Alex. Cut. Cut. Low. Cut. Safe throw halfway. Cut. 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 Final throw. Cut. Cut. finished. Come over and show clear.
Night shoot was pretty cool. There were 3 steel targets. You had the option of either using the light on your rifle or whatever light you had on hand, or truck lights. Once the truck lights came on, you had a total of 20 seconds to engage the targets. 1 shot per steel. Each shot you took removed 5 seconds from your total time, so it was possible to get a negative score. If you're really curious what the flash signature on a Surefire Mini 2 is like on a 14.5-inch SOCOM barrel, using a Winchester white box 55 grain ammo, this is what it looks like. Not too much footage from this stage because my camera does not work this dark. Messing around in Miles gear is just plain fun, and it also really gives you an idea on how much competitive shooting benefits quote-unquote combative shooting, and simultaneously how different they are. It really solidified to me how important it is in the ability to carry a lot of ammunition. I only had 15 rounds in the mag, and so did everybody, and it was gone in no time. You spend a lot of time thinking about how are you going to suppress your opponent and then maneuver to get an advantageous position on them. This was really cool, very, very informative stage for all of the reasons that I just mentioned. Trench Warfare stage. Really awesome stage. Great to actually be able to run around in a trench. The trick with this stage is that there was an ammo box inside the trench. They had 9 eggs. Each had a number written on them, and it told you which position in the trench that you had to shoot at. Overall, pretty cool.
Don't trip over your knife, it came off.
1.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2,
3.
2. All right, get back up here.
2.
1, 2.
1.
1. 2.
2.
1, 2. Next egg.
1.
Get farther in the port. 1, 2.
Last. 2.
1, 2.
The pistol stage. I did seriously okay on this. I'm not really happy with this one considering how much pistol I shoot in USPSA, and also considering how basic the shooting challenge is. I chose not to engage the second spinner because I felt like it would kill too much time. In retrospect, I really should have taken the spinner. Again, I'm not very good at spinners, and I was the first person in my squad to do this, so I didn't really have a gauge of how long is this going to take. So it was actually pretty cool. I know what to do in the future. Very informative for myself.
Hey, move. Back there.
Now let's hear our winner of Woodland, Juan Cisneros.
Greetings everyone, and thank you for tuning in today to Shooting Complex. I'm with a Woodland Brutality top competitor at the moment right now, so would you like to introduce yourself?
My name is Juan Cisneros. I'm from San Diego. This is probably my 5th or 6th Brutality.
Yeah.
Cool. So what initially attracted you to the sport?
So, I mean, ever since I was a little kid, I liked guns. Didn't really get into shooting till about 10 years ago, and even then I just dabbled with handgun. I live in San Diego, so there's not necessarily a ton of, there's a fair amount of shooting, but not like other places. And I was focused on other things, but then when I really got into shooting about 10 years ago, that's when I learned to shoot. And then after, I was really into bike racing, and then COVID happened, so all the bike racing kind of went away.
Okay.
For a while, and I got out of
So
shape.
one expensive hobby at a time, right?
Yeah. Well, what it was I still needed something to scratch my competitive itch, and I wasn't in shape to race. And I started watching InRange TV, and I saw this, and like that looks like a lot of fun. Looks like way more fun than just hosing paper at 5 yards. No offense to anybody that likes to do that. Just not my thing. And yeah, it just looked like a lot of fun, and I finally came around to the one in the Desert Brutality in 2021.
So was that your first competition?
Yeah, my first brutality match. I had done pistol. I had done a couple 2 guns, and I had done some like not steel challenges. Think of like USPSA style, but all steel. I had done some of that.
Oh, okay,
and I had done
cool.
some USPSA.
Cool.
For practice. And I had driven out after I registered for DB21. I drove out to Tucson to do Carl's monthly match just to get a taste.
Excellent.
So that's basically it.
And so then you got hooked.
And I got hooked right off the bat. I got hooked on these.
So what's the biggest thing that really just attracts you to Woodland or any of the brutality style matches? So what does it do for you?
It's just the practical aspect is fun. It's fun in that you're not like again, no offense to the USPSA crowd, but the fact that like losing a microsecond here or there doesn't completely screw you for the rest of the match is cool. I like the longer range rifle stuff a lot. The physical, I mean, being a bike racer, I like the physical aspect of it. Which I mean, I guess in USPSA you are running a lot, but it's different.
But it is a different
Yeah.
physical challenge because I feel like with USPSA the challenge is more mental. You have to rehearse the
Agreed.
stage. Like it's incumbent on you to come up with a stage plan. But here, is that the same case?
I agree with what you're saying. That you don't have to. Yeah, there's no gotcha targets. You don't.
Sure.
You know, it's very linear. Sometimes you have a little bit of leeway in terms of like how you want to do certain things, but it's very minimal. It's kind of laid out for you.
Yes.
Like, you know, I like what they've done this year where there's some optional like bonus targets or whatever. And there's like another couple of them where you can do things a little bit differently, but there's no gotcha. There's not really a lot of, other than like knowing your dope. There's not really a lot of like you have to really think about a lot of stuff on the clock. Other than in a couple stages, you have to remember where the targets are.
Yes, absolutely.
But even then, that's not like a gotcha thing.
Sure.
And
that's on you.
Yeah. And that's one thing that has got me about like the USPSA stuff is like there's gotcha targets.
And I think that's really interesting because as my audience knows, I do prefer shooting USPSA, but I also really enjoy these matches exactly for the same reason that Juan stated, that the microseconds don't necessarily kill people and it's a really fun break. And so you also touched on something that you said it felt more practical. Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah. You're shooting in like a lot of realistic positions, like for rifle, you know, a lot of prone shooting, a lot of maybe shooting from around cover, and also shooting while tired, shooting while like you just not necessarily tired, but shooting while winded. You're like sprinting and you know, do all that kind of stuff, and then having to shoot, having to, you know, control your breathing, and it's equally applicable to handgun versus rifle.
Yeah, so. You like to go back to the earlier point. USPSA is more mental and a little bit less physical, but this definitely does place a premium on somebody's conditioning. Not to the point of like Matt Frazier level conditioning, but if you're decently conditioned and decently athletic, you'll probably do pretty well.
And even if you're not, you might eat time on certain stages. Like you can still be a bigger dude or woman and do well. You're not going to win the Casarda drill with the kettlebell throwing, but other stages, even that are somewhat physical, like the trench stages that you just did, you can still do well.
Absolutely.
So it's
and you're also going to have fun too.
Yeah. Which I mean, again, what's fun for you is what's fun for you. But
cool. Well, thank you so much, Juan, for
pleasure.
your time. Yeah. Absolutely.
Thanks, everybody, and I hope you found today's video informative. If you liked it, please let me know. And one final thing. When you go to bed tonight, dream that we are truly our most evolved form, which is, of course, a projectile. Beautifully and leadened in our body and coated in only the finest copper.